Clock straight up. Let's call the meeting to order. Allie, if you'd like to take a roll call, please.
Mary Jo Wheeler-Schuler.
Here.
Andrew Rigel.
Present.
Russ Stauber.
Here.
Ken Bargander.
Here.
Tom Buckey.
Here.
Paul Kappa.
Here.
Lyle Lang.
Here.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda, election of officer for vice chair. Yes, I have a motion.
I would motion to elect Mr. Stauber as vice chair.
We have a second? Motion?
I'll make a motion to cast a unanimous ballot for Mr. Stauber in closed nominations.
Okay. Any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Congratulations, Russ. You're the new vice chair. Welcome. Thank you. All right. Item number 3, approval of minutes from May 11th, 2023, the regular meeting.
I move to approve.
Second. Tom?
Can you see it running?
Mm-hmm.
And Andrew second.
Oh, Andrew, you're the second. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Number 4 on the agenda, identify potential conflicts of interest. Please be advised that per city policy 3.340, any members of the body shall declare conflict if they have an interest, financial or otherwise, direct or indirect, or engaged in a business or transaction or professional activity or incur an obligation of any nature that is a conflict with the proper discharge of this body's official duties. Any conflicts? Number 5, citizens' comments. Any citizens' comments? No citizen comments? Okay. Good, we're moving right along then. Number 6, chairperson comments. So this is my first meeting as chair, so thank you. I'm very honored and humbled to be sitting in this position before you today as newly appointed chairperson. We're embarking on a new journey together. I'm filled with excitement and anticipation with the great things that we hopefully will achieve as a board. One thing is certain, I'm a woman of action, and I really believe that great things can be done in the city of Marshfield if we work together. Economic development is a crucial aspect of any community, and I believe together we can make a significant impact on the economy and the well-being in our region. Our goal is to create an environment that fosters entrepreneurship and innovation while also attracting new businesses to our area. As a board, we have a responsibility to the community we serve, and I am confident that we will rise to the occasion and deliver results that will make a positive impact on the lives of those around us. I am committed to working collaboratively with each of you to ensure the efforts are purposeful, strategic, and effective. Together, we will build a brighter future for our community, and I'm thrilled to be part of that journey with each of you. Thank you for entrusting me with this position, and I'm excited to work with each of you, and I look forward to the great things we're here to accomplish. So let's work and make a difference in our community. Thank you. Board member comments, number 7. Any comments, Ken?
Thank you. I don't know, some of you noticed today, I drove my new UTV here, and it just shows that, you know, when the city changed the ordinance or moved to create a new ordinance to allow UTVs in the city, it motivated me to purchase a new UTV right here in Marshfield at Power Pack. And I've driven it around extensively here in town. My wife drives along. We get a lot of people come up to us and say, boy, I didn't even know you could even drive these in town. And he explained it all. And then they ask, you know, probably one of the first questions, well, how much does it cost, you know? And, you know, and we're very open with that. And we explain it and, you know, what roads you can go on, what roads you can't go on. So we're excited to have it, you know, and I think it was a very good idea from the city as a city and a council to open our streets, most of our streets, to UTV, ATV traffic. So hopefully in the future, more people will be taking advantage of that, and visitors from out of town will be coming in with their UTVs and ATVs to patronize our businesses. So thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Appreciate that. Any other comments? No? Okay, moving on. Item number 7, or number 8, 205 fund balance sheet update. Steve?
Fine. Thank you, Mary Jo. I just handed out a report, and the reason it wasn't in the packet is it's hot off the press. If you look at the timing of our meetings with respect to the timing of accounting and financial reports that we get on a monthly basis, it's a little bit of a push to get these done into you in the agenda packet, but this came out today from Finance. It's a look at, through the end of May, the balance sheet report for the 205 Economic Development Fund. I really haven't had a chance to even glance much at it myself because I've been kind of scurrying with some other things. It doesn't appear initially to be radically different than what you saw previously. There hasn't been a lot of activity in the fund one way or another. So I would take any questions you have, but it's pretty close to what you saw 30 days ago.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions?
I'll make a motion to receive and place on file if required. I think it is.
Motion? All those in favor? Second? From Tom? Those in favor?
Aye.
And pass.
Aye.
All right. Item number 9, update on filling filling board vacancy. So we have a vacancy that we have to discuss.
Yeah, most of you I think know Gabrielle Falke. She did resign. She sent me an email, a very nice one, indicating that some of the stuff she's been taking on in her personal life and other things that she's pursuing, taking a little bit more of her time. So she felt that she needed to step aside. That provided an opening. We were out advertising, looking for someone, and the mayor has put someone forward. His name is John Tracy. He is the owner, I believe, of Uptown Coffee. He is very interested in the position. That appointment by the mayor will go to the council on Tuesday, June 13th. It's kind of, we sometimes talk about it like a first reading, second reading. That's what ordinances are, but it's similar to that, where the first time at presentation, they'll get a chance to ask any questions or raise any concerns they might have about an applicant, and then they'll vote on June 27th. So if all goes well, if the council approves, John Tracy would join us for the July meeting.
Sounds good. Thank you, Steve. Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you. I don't know this individual, but I know of them owning the Uptown Coffee. I think it's very good to have someone in the business side of it on this board. So I think that'll be a good fit. Gabriel was served that before, and I'm looking forward to that appointment. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. And I would add something else too, just a note. I would like to thank past councils for modifying the ordinance as far as who can be on these committees, boards, and commissions. A couple of years ago, this wouldn't have been possible. John lives in the village of Hewitt, and that would have been a disqualifying thing for him. But because he lives within 10 miles of the city limits and owns a business here in town, he is eligible to be on the Economic Development Board. And you've been through that as well, actually, Mary Jo. It's good to get business owners involved in our community, and this is a great opportunity.
Thank you, Steve. Any other discussion? No. Okay. Moving on. Number 10, review of bylaws, code of conduct.
Mary Jo brought this up, and I applaud you for that. You were asking whether or not they even exist. Well, this body was formed in 2012, so we're now 11 years out. And the people who kind of put this together, I was here then. I started with the city in January of 2011, but actually, Jason Angel, who was then the service director, was at the heart of putting this together along with some other people. And they did approve a code of conduct and a bylaws for the Economic Development Board members. And, if you aren't familiar with it, join the club. I wasn't really either. It's been kind of sitting on the shelf gathering dust probably for a large part. Anyway, talking with the chair here, we looked it up, we found it, we put it in your packet. And I agree with what you're suggesting, that it would be wise maybe rather than to sit here and go line by line through these to make sure that A, we're familiar with them, and B, we agree with them and don't want to make any changes. It might be good to get a subcommittee, maybe of, say, 3 members of this body, for example, meeting off on the side, kind of go through them to see if they're still appropriate, if they're still pertinent, or if any updates or modifications should be made. And then approve them and be, again, I think reviewing them periodically to make sure that we all understand and we're abiding by them. And we do get new members. I mean, we're talking about a new member for next month. Some of you in the room, at least a couple of you are new members in the past, 4 to 5 months. So I think it's a very important thing to do. And I guess I would suggest that I agree with the chair that maybe we look at the creation of a subcommittee.
I'll give you some backstory on this. When I decided, when the mayor appointed me to this position, I was looking for bylaws. I was looking for the rules, like a lot of the committees and things and boards I sit on, and I had been asking for them. And those are kind of the rules of our board, how we're governed, how we're bodied. And thank you, Steve, for finding them and getting up to us.
You're welcome.
But looking through them, I think they need to be updated. A lot of the boards that I sit on, we write in there that we review them every 2 years because things change, things come up, things happen, circumstances. But I think it's especially nice for the newer people to understand what the roadmap is. So what I'd like to see happen is just a small committee of us, maybe 3, 4 of us that get together and can look through them. Maybe somebody that has a little longer history on the Economic Development Board, and then some of us newer ones that, hey, this doesn't seem, or some of us with experience of other boards. So I was going to put a motion out there that we form a committee and we look through the bylaws and see what updates need to happen and what things need to change. So. Discussion? Yes.
I make a motion to form a subcommittee to go over the bylaws. I'm not sure the appointments, who wants to make the appointments on there, how that's going to work. Steve, do you have an idea?
I think this is entirely internal. I mean, I think you just determine what 3 members are acceptable to this body to meet on the side and report back to the full group.
Usually in past board meetings that I've sat on, it's been the chair, the vice chair, and one other person, and we just pick it, and somebody that has interest in it. Not everybody likes to sit and read bylaws, so, and your nighttime reading material.
Well, okay, if that's the case, I would suggest Mary Jo, Russ, and I would like somebody from the utility, maybe, Paul.
That sounds good.
If that's.
So you're making that motion?
That is my motion.
Okay. Do you have a second?
I'll second. I think it's a good effort.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Some say it's a railroad job, Russ. But
Well, I think you saw that coming when you made me vice chair. Would these bylaws then be reviewed by the city attorney back to the council, or is it all internal?
We could do that. I mean, especially if there's any thoughts that there might be legal ramifications from them as opposed to just business operations, things about, when we meet, what the purposes are and stuff. But yeah, it's, the city attorney does great work for us. It might be a good idea for him to scan over them and give any thoughts. He's obviously seen bylaws before for different organizations.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you. All right, number 11, facade grant request, 113 East 4th Street.
Yeah, I just want to start back where we were. If you remember last month, we were talking about the process for reviewing these. At that point, we didn't even have any. And so the thought was, let's give another 60 days and give people through the latter part of July to submit. Since then, we've had one request come in. We're expecting another one soon that we've heard is bubbling up. But the individual we have asking, in the request you have before you right now, Karen Miller from 113 East 4th Street, would really like to move forward with the project and is wondering whether the city would be supportive in being part of it. She just finished, or is just wrapping up a project at 111 East 4th, effectively the same building, and that has been also partially funded through a facade grant by the city's program as we continue to get the monies out there to upgrade these buildings. Now, if you recall, maybe I mentioned this last time we were together, the facade grant program has changed over the years. It was initially just for front of buildings. Then we kind of went along and said maybe, improve the backs of buildings as well, make that eligible. And in recent times, we've added interior conversions of buildings to either promote restaurant-type uses, food and beverages, maybe, even I think upstairs apartments may be eligible, I believe, under the program. So the one you have before you right now is really an interior conversion. There's no exterior work planned with this building at all. And what they're looking to do is, I had it in front of me a second ago, just make sure I get this right. They're looking at a business called the Gray Dog Axe Throwing. That currently operates in Medford. This would be a business that would have axe throwing, but they would also have food and beverage and be that type of business as well. So it kind of fits under our restaurant piece. The work that they would be doing in that building would include adding men's and women's restroom spaces, storage room, updating HVAC, electrical improvements, a corrugated steel on the ceiling to allow the exposed beams to stay exposed, keep those ceilings high, which make it a very nice environment. And the total of the project is roughly $200,000, $195,000. The most we allow, we have $70,000 set aside for facade grant work in 2023, but the most any one applicant can ask for typically is $40,000. Obviously, this body created the fund. You can waive that at some point if you think an applicant is worthy of getting more than 40. I can tell you that Karen would like to get a little bit more if that was possible, given the total size of the project, but she understands that 40 is the norm. So it was brought to the Historic Preservation Commission on Monday. Ken is part of that group. They found it to be in order and reasonable. And their purview is more for exterior improvements, but they did have a conversation and they found it to be good. Earlier today, the Main Street Design Committee met and they didn't see any problems with the request either in terms of what's being proposed. So even though it's not what we expected 30 days ago when I was in front of you, I do have a specific request in front of you asking for approval of a $40,000 facade grant through the interior conversion portion to do the renovation work inside 113 East 4th Street.
What's the assessment increase that's going to be given to the property?
It's hard to say. I mean, it's always hard to say, and I haven't talked about this with the assessor, in terms of interior improvements, such as heating, air conditioning, electrical, whatever, and even interior structures. I mean, presumably it will increase the value, which is part of the program. Mm-hmm. The program was created initially with TIF district money to upgrade the value of these buildings for tax purposes. I can't tell you right now what it will do. It'll obviously be some benefit, but if you want, I can find out and try and write that back to you. He might have a hard time just reading this application, telling you how much more the value will be on the assessment rolls as a part of this, though. It's not always that simple.
Okay. Go ahead, Ben.
Thank you. Steve mentioned earlier, we just give a quick overview of the project. Karen Mueller was there at that meeting. She explained it to us. We, as a commission, we did not actually have an opinion per se about interior, okay? We talked a little bit about the exterior. Well, that's already been accomplished. That's been done, okay? So we did not take a particular interest in the interior program. So we did not have really an opinion either way, okay? One of the members did mention when he looked at the guidelines here, and I have these in front of us, it's page 41 on your agenda today. He did mention that only less than 10% of the inside would only be used for dining or beverages. So if you read the design guidelines, it says, number one, for converting underused space on a second story or above to new residential units. Well, that doesn't apply, okay? So converting office or professional services space to a new eating or drinking establishment. Well, it's not really a eating or drinking establishment. It's axe throwing for entertainment for use, okay? Interior renovations relating to new eating and or drinking establishments. So, like I said, it really is not a drinking or eating establishment. It's a entertainment, axe throwing type of business. So, according to what the member did, he said it was around 7 to 8% that would only be used for that purpose, and the rest would be used for their business. So, it's just something for everyone here to think about. Obviously, these guidelines were put forth so we could. We had something to make our decisions to go by, right? And I always follow. I like to follow the guidelines and the bylaws or whatever it is here in the city. So I think we should consider that before we decide to grant any funds. Thank you.
Thank you.
It is true that the thought behind that was more pure restaurant use than the business that, as an ancillary part of its business, does serve food and beverage. So, I mean, I get what you're saying. I think the thought is that this might be a business that's beneficial and that does have food service, but leave that to the, the opinion of the board.
Lyle,
But I get your point, obviously, Ken.
Thank you.
go ahead, Lyle.
Yeah, just a comment. I know I missed a few meetings, so I don't know if something appears to have changed here, because my memory tells me, like a year ago, as an example, we changed changed the rules from just doing a street facade. Then we moved it to the alley, the backside, which is a good argument was made and that type of thing. Now we're going inside, and I wasn't aware of that. And not that it's not real, but I don't remember that being a part of this discussion. It seems to me from the outside looking in, this really opens up a huge can of worms in terms of what where we may be painting ourselves into a corner here with limited funds. The whole idea in my mind was to make everything look good from the street. Now we're going on to the inside. It seems like just a stretch for me from how the program was initially started.
Thank you, Lyle.
Yeah, it was definitely a different step. I think it was intended because, again, going back to what Mary Jo was saying, one of the things that this program started out with once upon a time was trying to increase tax value of properties for downtown. And it was in a TIF district that the funds were coming from. So generally, when you spend money, you want to see some money come back to the city in terms of further tax payments. I think that arguably interior conversions produce that if they upgrade facilities to make them more business friendly, more business usable. But I'm not going to debate either the point you raised or the point Ken raised. I certainly understand the concerns, even though I think it's been looked at so far as being a positive for the downtown and a good project for us to assist with.
Hi, Tom.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm with Lyle and Ken on this. There's more buildings downtown in the area that could use facade improvement. I would like to see those first before we start going inside. Boy, you get the inside and you're talking about some money. You're going to eat up that money real quickly when you put bathrooms and stuff like that in there. I'm not necessarily against improving the inside, but I'm going to go back to what Lyle said. It was facade, back alley. That was the key to me, to make it look nice. And then maybe down the future, we could look at more of the inside. But then you better rename it, not the facade grant, because this is not facade.
Yeah, I think beyond what you do with this particular application, if you want to talk about at a future meeting, whether you want to continue the interior conversion part of this, I wasn't really part of this. Again, it's usually been development services staff and others that have been part of this along with Main Street, Marshfield. But I mean, if that's something that you're concerned about in general, we certainly don't want people coming forward with requests that are not going to be looked at the same as exterior facades.
Well, on the application for Main Street Marshfield, it says facade and interior conversion program application. Now, I argue back that what is the ROI for the city on this? So it's about tax. I don't care where the person's spending the money, like inside, outside, whatever, as long as we're improving that property and we can charge more tax. So we're not a bank. Like, let's get our return on investment with it. So to argue back though, like if it's inside or outside, I think we're just looking at it as what's the return on investment for the city or this program. If we can recoup our costs over 20 years as a city with this program, I don't think that's a bad ROI, but.
Well, going back to what you said earlier, I can certainly go to the assessor and have him make an estimate. It'll be an estimate at this point. I mean, he can be allowed in the building. He can look at the list of improvements projected. He's done that for us before on properties, at least a couple times that the city itself has looked at with respect to TIF districts, where people have suggested that they're going to make a major improvement, and we need to know what the ultimate tax value is going to be so we know what kind of incentive we might give. Kaylee walked in at a very interesting moment. And so maybe she might have some more background about some of the interior conversion discussion, what led to adding this to the program along with facade grants.
I have a question in the meantime, while you brief her on what we're talking about,
Yeah,
if I
go
could. Is there anyone on the board now that was on the board when the program was expanded from facade to facade and interiors? I could give us a little bit of background on why that happened or when it happened?
I was on the board, but I'm like Steve, I don't remember when we included the backsides of buildings. I don't really remember when we included the interiors, I'll be
Okay.
honest.
Josh,
Good afternoon, everybody. I was Development Services Director when they did decide to convert that program. And the reason being was we were struggling to find applicants for the exterior of the buildings. I mean, we had a lot of opportunity. There were a number of years where we didn't have many applications. And then we sat and we talked about what would be a good way to expand the program. And looking at the Economic Development Action Plan at the time, it was convert, upstairs units to residential and convert office space to retail, and restaurant. And so really we said, well, let's limit the scope. Let's focus on restaurants and apartments. Those are the things that we thought would make a more vibrant downtown. And so that was really where we shifted the program to say, okay, we'll allow for this as well. There was a cap on it of $15,000 at one point. It was also capped at I think per dollar per square footage as well. And I don't know if that cap is still in the program or not, but it was really intended to, it wasn't just an ROI. It wasn't just to make things pretty. It was getting the things that we wanted to see downtown. And that was restaurant space. We didn't include entertainment, but it was restaurant and housing. So that was really the impetus behind it.
When was that?
I want to say 2019, maybe 2020.
Just two other comments. I can appreciate the concern because I too had to, take a step back and reread the flyer for facade and interior. This facility does have a bar. So there was a comment by Ken that the interiors had to be either serving food or drink. So this one, I think, checks the box for drink.
it does, it says bar, food, and arcade tables, and its application.
And then I'll just close with, kind of looking back at our body's statement of purpose, and I think the chairperson referenced this earlier, and that's to increase taxes in town. And to Lyle's comment, it's not like we're, I guess, use my words here. These are competitive applications, and for a long time there haven't been many applicants for the funds for whatever reason. If the tables turn and we have 5 applications for facade interior improvement, this type of application or applicant maybe would rank on the lower end of the scale by some of our standards. But all things considered, I would have no problem supporting the facade interior renovation to the amount of $40,000. And I think that's what was in front of us. So I'll make that a motion so we can continue conversation if needed.
Sounds good. So we have a motion. Thank you. All those in favor?
Well,
Discussion? The motion is to approve the application for $40,000 the way it was written.
and typically, and again, just from my recollection, and Steve, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but typically, at least legal would say, let's get a motion on the floor, a second, and continue discussion or have questions. So I put it on the floor if there's any additional questions, not to run the meeting or anything, but.
Thank you. Polypro.
I suspect, I don't know, but I suspect this motion's going to fail, just from what I've been hearing here. Steve mentioned to have the assessor here. I mean, that would be a big thing for me to see what the assessor says as far as increase in taxes, facade versus inside. I do remember, Josh jogged my memory, I think I was on the board when it was the facades, and then you had a lull in that, but you got to remember COVID was around as well. And then we really pushed for the apartments upstairs above the stores because a lot of them that was not being used, and we wanted to get people downtown. And then I think that's where it came, where we approved, or whoever it was on at that time approved some inside. But I still think our goal should be facade, front, back, and upstairs. So I will be voting no.
Lyle?
It seems to me, so, and I don't argue with what you're saying, Mary Jo, about return on investment, outside of the fact that you use a 20-year time frame. And so if you want to, live in a world of extremes, we could say, well, we throw this money at this project and 1 year from now it doesn't exist, the money's gone. So there is no return on investment, because it sounds like a very specific type of project. I don't know if there's going to be, they're throwing axes, so it's a long runway, so that's not really going to be a great inside conducive for another business walking in there without any more improvements. And it seems to me like we're playing a little mini Washington, D.C. here, where we've got funding, but no place to put it, so let's keep expanding the program, or keep expanding the definition of where we want that money to go. That doesn't ring in my brain as something that makes any sense.
I agree.
I'll be voting no also.
Ken?
Thank you. Just one thing I wanted to add that I learned during the Historic Commission meeting from Karen Mueller is the question I had, the axe throwing company has signed will sign a 5-year lease. So it's a 5-year commitment at this point. If I would imagine if it goes well, they'll sign on again 5 years from now, okay? So, but we don't know, obviously. And I guess I got a question for Josh. When, according to the guidelines, it says eating or drinking establishment. Did in the spirit of that, is it something that, how much of the space should be utilized for eating and drinking? I mean, did you think that, a downtown business would be all used for eating and drinking? Is that what you were thinking at the time? Or?
You don't always know all the details until you see an application like this. Just like this program, I think, was reviewed and approved probably by this board this year. And now it seems like the board is saying we may not want to fund certain things. So I think we really were focused on getting entertainment, getting that, eating and drinking establishments, because that was what was identified in the Economic Development Action Plan. I don't know that there wasn't a percentage given. I think if it fit that need, if it fit, bringing a new business or supporting a new business that fit that niche, that was what we wanted to see. So we hadn't drawn a distinction before. The other application that was successful was Blue Plate, which was next to Mojo's, and that was one that was an interior conversion because that was a restaurant opening up.
Thank you, Josh. Any other discussion?
I would like to follow up on that, please. One other thing, we did question Karen a little bit about what type of food and drinking. So the food would be pretty much, they wouldn't have a grill or anything. It'd be prepackaged food, okay? And then like chips, snacks, popcorn, maybe. I'm not exactly sure. Soft drinks, and I think there was some alcohol on certain nights, and then they were going to go NA on certain nights too, if I recall. So it's not being sold as a drinking and eating establishment. It's being sold as an entertainment venue. It's for axe throwing. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Okay,
so we have a motion on the floor I need to add something to this. I agree with Lyle that I feel like we play mini Washington up here. We are Marshfield, Wisconsin. We have a business coming to town that's going to bring entertainment. Wausau has axe throwing. There's lots of communities have axe throwing. We don't have a lot in this community. We have money in this fund to help this business out. Hopefully it provides an increased tax base that we can charge more taxes. I would like to know that answer, but I would rather see us spend something like this that would bring something and people from the surrounding communities to this area than flowers for downtown that doesn't do much. So I think we need to quit playing so much Washington up there. That said, Tom, go ahead.
Thank you. I don't know if I can follow that, but I will. I do believe there are grants from the seed committee for facade improvements. I'm pretty sure I saw that. That's something to look into that. I've heard that out there somewhere. I don't know if it's being used, but again, you know, again, I could go with Lyle too, you know, it's like, it's burning a hole in our pocket, you know, and I go along with Mary Jo as well. I want new places to come in. But we're spreading ourselves too thin on this committee, what we're all pushing to do, you know. Again, there's now, what about this other one that we have, Steve, that's going to be coming in? Do we know what, is that a facade one?
I don't have it, maybe Kaylee knows, I mentioned that there was another one bubbling up that we're expecting to see, and I don't really have any.
But my point is we should be looking, we got to get the information out to the downtown businesses, and I'm sure you are, but you know, we have to find out if there's more people that want a facade improvement and goes back to our original mission.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, thank you. You know, and you're going to vote and you're going to take the action you are. I just want to make sure a couple points are understood. If it matters in terms of the increase in assessed value, which I think is what Mary Jo was hinting at, which is a really good question. I maybe didn't answer real well the first time this was talked about here earlier today. I mean, the city assessor, given a little bit of time, can give a good estimate. Thinking back to when there was a proposal for a restaurant, a high-end restaurant downtown here, maybe many of you know that, the assessor did take a look at the current assessed value. He looked at the improvements that were suggested. I think he was actually in the building, and he came up with an estimate of how much more it would be valued at once those improvements were made. Certainly some of the improvements being talked about here will increase the value of the building. There's no doubt about it. If that's a relevant thing to the board, I could certainly get that as a follow-up if you wanted to look at that. Secondly, I think Kaylee wants to address the food and beverage service, maybe knowing a little bit more about what's being expected from the applicant.
I apologize, I'm in between meetings today. I'm gonna have to leave a little early too. But what I can say about the program is I was a part of building that initial discussion when the board was a very different group than it is today. So I know just the context there. There was a need. We were being asked very heavily to address the need for restaurants in this community and housing for this community. So we thought, okay, what can we do? Can we build another program that's successful like the facade program, because we've seen so much success? Where's the most logical spot for that? And the EDB said, you know, if you have ideas, please bring them. We brought it, and this program was developed. So it's less about the diminishment of the facade, because that is definitely still relevant, but it's not the only relevant thing downtown to bring new businesses downtown. The other aspect of this is that you're talking about an axe throwing place. No one is going to go to an axe throwing place if there is not food and beverage. That's part of the entire package. In a sense, it is kind of a food and restaurant place with darts. I mean, you're not going to go to a bar just to go play darts in an empty room. It's kind of a full package thing. It's an experience where you would have a meal or a drink with some friends. You're also looking at a building that's been completely gutted and sitting for quite a few years in kind of a tricky spot. It's not like that area has its own parking lot. It's not like that area is super beautiful and connected to Central Avenue. I'd say that we're pretty fortunate to have a business that's interested in this building and that it suits its needs so perfectly. And then it's also a business that's been vetted and is successful in Medford right now and moving over, not just a startup.
That's good, thanks. I think, Andrew, you wanted to say something as well.
Yes, I did. A couple of things. First, are they required to provide one estimate as far as the cost goes? Because in my reading, it appeared there's only one estimate provided by them. Is that correct?
You mean for each of the different services?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, I don't know, you know, again, I haven't been intimately involved in this in the past. I don't know if there's a requirement for more than one quote. I know, you know, oftentimes businesses and certainly we in government go to get more than one, especially if there's a thought that the quote that you get initially might be high. I'm not sure what else I can say to speak to that right now.
Okay, yeah, I just didn't know if there was the hard requirement or not. So if we don't know, that's fine, we don't know.
I'd be more concerned about it if it weren't for the differential between what they're asking for and what this is going to cost. We offered it to cover up to 50% of the cost of a project. If this project were in the neighborhood of $80, $90, $100,000 in total, asking for $40,000, you know, I might have a little bit more pause as to whether they could get the work done less expensively. At $195 for the total cost, I guess I didn't flag it quite as much myself.
Okay, and then I guess I'm not going to try to get on my soapbox here, but my understanding of the room right now is that there's a meeting of legislative intent here of what was a theory behind the facade program at the beginning, and then over the years it's expanded to address more things on here. The way I'm reading, at least what we have in the packet here, is that they would still qualify for this as it is written. With that being said, if we don't like the fact that it does cover interiors, we should change that and fix it and not just advertise it as applying there. Because I don't think it's fair necessarily to vote no and just pull the rug up beneath them when they're approaching in good faith and looking at the flyers, at the information that we're giving out saying, yeah, we qualify for this. On a similar note though, not trying to just burn money just because you have it, I guess my concern would be, especially knowing that there's potentially another request coming in here, is my concern would be of the 60,000 that we have available yet this year, devoting 40,000 of it to this building, and then another building could come in with just as good of an application, and they're requesting another 30,000. So I think it in my mind, it's kind of hard to say, yes, let's approve 40,000 without knowing what else is coming along the way. So I guess at this point, I'd make a motion to table the vote to approve this until we know more information, whether it's the information regarding the approved assessment or what the other application is.
Just to note, we have 70,000, not 60,000 for the year, but you made some really good points in your comments.
We have a motion on a motion.
Is it up to me to second that one since I have the motion on the table?
To amend your motion?
He's put a motion on top of mine. Do I need to second his motion if I'm the one who presented the original motion?
We're too far into Robert's rules for me. I'm sorry.
Polypro.
I think anyone can second my motion if I read it correctly.
The other possibility would be if you wanted to withdraw your motion, that might be cleaner and clearer than putting something over top of it, if that's what you actually feel led to do.
So
I think that's my cue. So procedurally, I had those questions. You know, we have three things I guess that we could do. Let the motion fail as made. Amend the motion for some unknown percent tax increase that would satisfy some concerns, saying if this facility as designed would increase our tax base by 5%, 10%, 20%, I don't know. Maybe that could be an amendment to the motion, or we just table it. And I do agree. We've got a moving target here for potential development, and it's not fair to applicants that we double back whether we were on the board or not. We've got a program in place, and we should not change our mind in as Mike Brame used to say, change horses in midstream. You know, we start talking about economic development. You're either moving forward or you've got to withdraw it and revamp the program, in my opinion. And finally, I'll say too, I think it was on the heels of the Main Street director, but success breeds success. So we've got a vacant building. It's got a nice exterior. It's been vacant for quite a few years. We don't know if this axe throwing bar is going to be a hit. I've been invited to one of these bars before. I passed. I was in Minneapolis, but I know they are kind of trendy. And if this business becomes viable, who knows what might come with it? It could be maybe a medical unit, 2 doors down. But I can go either way. I do think, though, that if we're going to modify the program, maybe then we table this and get our ducks in a row for the next application.
Thank you. I will just add one more thing too, just for clarification purposes. We talked about waiting for other applicants. Keep in mind that we put this out around April 1st. So it's already been out there, going on 10 weeks. You did agree to wait longer to see if more applicants came, but it's not like we're rushing to judgment. It's been available and publicized for a while.
So Andrew, we have your motion is to table this, correct? And
that is correct.
Okay. Right. And you're withdrawing, or you're?
I'm not clear on the procedure. So he makes a motion on top of mine to table it. I don't know if that trumps my motion to approve it. I honestly don't know.
I don't.
But if it helps.
Well, then you got to come to Ed, can you come to the podium so they can hear you on TV?
Well, I tell you what, just to keep it simple, then I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay, so our motion is to table it. Second? Or moving, voting? Okay. So my
Steve-
dream of having a 1 hour meeting is crushed today, just to let you know.
Steve or Josh, do we have a deadline on these facade grants? Because we should have something there, and I like, what you said, Steve. I can't argue with that. That's been out there for a long time. But if you don't have a deadline, how do we choose the first one that comes in? I mean, you should have a deadline, and then
Well, the
like
Wood County application has a deadline. It's July 7th, so
Yeah.
it should be something that's in there.
It's kind of semantics, and I come into this the first time. Kaylee and Josh have been around doing this for a while, so they're better versed on it than me. But, I've been using the word deadline, but if you look at what we've used in the past, and I think it might even be in the materials now, first round of applications, I think the intent is when the money's gone, it's gone. But you're right, that's not real formal. Maybe in the future, we look at a hard deadline. But, we just figure if after 2 months, we have these particular applicants, then that's what we have, and other people miss the chance.
I think Russ, you hit it on the head, though. I don't want to throw this one out, but if somebody comes in or somebody else mentioned it, that you don't have the same amount of money, that's why a deadline would be nice. And you could look at, okay, this one we could give a certain amount, and then the next one a certain amount. But
I don't have,
instead of going by first come, first serve, I'm not sure.
yeah, I don't have the actual news release that went out and it was used all over all the various places. It was publicized, different platforms. But I think you can construe that if I showed it to you to be a deadline. It said applications to be received by, you have it in front of you, to be received by May 19th or something. Yeah.
So the application reviews deadline for first review of applications is Friday, May 19th is what it said. And the idea behind that is, you get it in there, you get priority. You get there and the money's gone at that point. That's kind of your onus to get your application in. So the first review is if we had full funds allocated at that point, that's kind of how that year would go. And then if there weren't a ton of applications, then maybe there's still some money on the table. We want to get it out there into the city. Then we would have a second round of reviews. But it's kind of an incentive to get it in.
Do they know that, though, that it is first come, first serve, but that if you brought a second one in, that you're not going to get as much money? Do they know that part of it as well?
That's very clear. To anyone that we've ever worked with on the program.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a motion to table. In essence of time, can we move forward with a vote, please? Okay. We'll go around. Lyle?
Yes.
Table? Paul?
Yes.
Ken?
To table?
Yes.
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Yes.
As well. Okay. We'll come back to this. Andrew, sorry, I forget about you. You're on the camera. I need you to
No,
raise
that's
your
fine.
hand
Yeah.
on the little emoji thing.
You're fine.
But before we leave that, can I take that to mean, okay, definitely get the information on assessed value increase expected. What else do you want from me prior to next consideration?
Go ahead, Ken.
I would like the applicant to come in person and talk about this, okay?
Yeah, the applicant is actually out of state and was with us on Monday, as you know, at Historic Preservation. And actually, she offered to be on phone hookup for this meeting. She's actually in New York. She talked to me at about 2 o'clock this afternoon and said, if you can put me on a phone hookup. But that's probably a difficult way to communicate with the board anyway. So maybe it's best to have another time in person. I know she wants to get this project going sooner rather than later, though. I think she'll probably be unhappy with me that I didn't put her on the phone right now. But it's a difficult thing to do in this setup.
I would like to invite her to the next meeting, get her on the agenda so she can talk and we can discuss things. That'll give us time to figure some stuff out with the program.
And just one other thing, please. I am aware that there is another applicant, okay? And we did extend a deadline 60 more days. And I did inform that applicant that they had 60 more days to apply. And they're aware of it. So if that 60 days goes by, we could call it a deadline. I wouldn't have a problem with that. But we did talk about before, deadlines. We don't really want to use deadlines so much because, sometimes, these applicants might all of a sudden start popping in. If we don't use up all the money, why do we need a deadline? You know?
So you're suggesting you don't want to see this until the meeting in August rather than the meeting in July? Because
I'd like to, you know, see exactly, you know, if we're gonna use that 60 days from April, what was it, Haley?
the May meeting, whatever date that was.
Whatever date that was. So 60 days from there, if we don't get any more applications, we should act.
Depending on the date we pick for the July meeting, we may be at 60 days.
Right, we should act at that point.
Okay.
You know?
All right.
All right.
Moving.
Anything else you want to see from me as part of that? Okay, thank you.
Moving forward, item number 13, agenda for June 15th meeting with council.
Yes, we're all set up for a week from tonight. Looking forward to it. It'll be at 6 o'clock at the 2nd Street Community Center. We'll be in the Drendel room, as they call it. That's the very large room to the right as you walk in. I tried to get a slightly smaller room. It wasn't available, but truthfully, given who we're inviting, the number of people, the Drendel room is probably not a bad place. We're going to start out at 5:30 with going to provide some pizza and water and just give a chance for people to talk to each other. I know Marshfield is kind of a big, small town, but I oftentimes find out that people on one board don't know the other. I've invited the CDA. I've already heard from a couple of those folks that they're coming. So it'd be a good time just to shake hands, have a piece of pizza, and be connected with people on other boards. Then the meeting will be from 6 o'clock to 7:30. I put a rough agenda just for discussion today, but it's based on our past conversations. It's a joint meeting, which means that Mary Jo and Lois will call the meeting to order separately for their bodies, get through the pleasantries, and then we'll really, the idea is, I think, look at the recent history of where we've been, get some information out to you, hopefully a little bit in advance, and we can walk through it, you know, sort of the highlights of couple of past studies, things that have been done. We did a great job of really helping to kick off some multifamily development in the latter part of the last decade, got a lot of units built with the help of some city assistance as well. And then get into where are we at right now, looking for some information to share in terms of the number of available single-family lots. You know, where are the gaps, where do the opportunities seem to be for needs, whether it be single-family, multifamily. Can talk about price points, can talk about whatever we think might be what we're seeing as the deficiencies, get some MLS information. And then what are the opportunities? What financial resources do we have to offer to try and spur on more development? What about the available land? What are the other hindrances in terms of trying to get some more residential construction going, whatever desirable construction that might be? And then who are the appropriate entities? EDB, council, CDA, others, to try and help jumpstart that development. That's a lot for 90 minutes, and I'm hoping we can stay to somewhere around 90 minutes. People don't like long meetings, but maybe it'll be 2 hours, whatever it is. And then we can talk about future next steps. Do we need to have another meeting of the bodies, or who's going to try and take the reins and bring things through with their groups? So that's just real rough. I'm only providing this for your discussion and tweaking at this point, and finalize it and get that kicked out then to the bodies.
Thank you, Steve. Any discussion? And I'm going to back up to go back to 12, request for Wood County grant funding. Sorry. That's my squirrel sitting next to me.
Okay. Does that mean that there's no questions right now about the agenda? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay. Yeah, it's time to really get serious at this moment. I'm not saying we haven't been serious before about what this body may wish to apply for from Wood County, because the deadline is July 7th, as Tom knows. That's about 4 weeks from right now. We've floated a few things before. Here's a couple things that have come up from this body recently. I know Kaylee brought up the idea that maybe some sort of our version of the CDI program that the state has for upstairs apartment, renovations. As you know, we just talked about the interior conversion program. If that is allowed to continue, depending upon where the board wants to take this, that does make possible converting, upstairs space to good apartment use. Also talked about the idea of having a small business loan or grant program. You may remember, some of you have been around with the city for a little bit, that during COVID, we had a great program. Josh did a wonderful job, and we got some money out to people who were struggling just to take them through a tough time. Whether this would be that type of program or something else to try and be able to help small businesses get a lift when they're struggling, that would be an opportunity that we could apply to the county for as well. And then a recent one I'm just throwing out there because it came up out of a meeting of the Plan Commission and some other discussions. We're looking at possibly approving a mini golf course business on the south end of town. It'd be across from Van de Hey Waters, our aquatic center. It's been identified that there's a need for a crosswalk potentially with signs and lighting. And the lighting can be fairly expensive. Those lights, the pedestrian hits and then they flash. And being that would further business and improve, the amenities connection down there to get more people to town doing those activities, that may be worthy of a loan or of a request as well. We may have batted around some other ones. I just want to narrow down what this body wants to see move forward because we got to get these things in. If you looked at the form in the packet again, it's only 2 pages. Supplemental documentation is helpful. I mean, if you can show a map or you can show estimates of what you're talking about. The Historic Preservation Commission talked at their last meeting about getting one in for more signs for the historic district. And that won't be a big dollar one, maybe a few thousand. So these are things that I think the county might look favorably upon because the dollar amounts are not all that high. We're talking at city level about some other ones that city staff has got a few ideas too of things we might want to get in there. I think Justin Casperson, in fact, I know Justin Casperson, our Park and Recreation Director, has already got 3 projects related to parks and trails because we've seen evidence that the SEED committee has funded park and trail improvements in the past as part of furthering economic development. So this is the moment. What is it we want to try and do? How do we get it together and then ship off something to the county?
So I'm glad to see that Justin in the Parks and Trails is doing something because looking at this list of the other communities around us that applied for the money, there's money out there and we didn't apply for it. I did have Mill Creek Youth Foundation and Marshfield Youth Hockey. They would like to submit $100,000 grant requests for building improvements and upgrades in order to bring hockey and tourism to Wood County. So that group is very strong. I think bringing youth sports would help immensely down in that area. Also, Northridge Church would like to submit, and this might be something that they could do possibly with Justin's group, $30,000 request for extending the walking trails by the Mill Creek Business Park and putting some ponds. Northridge Church wants to do some buildings and event centers out there. So I think the combination of the two are 2 strong projects that would definitely bring some economic development to the area and some seats.
I think they're excellent. The only question I have on the first one is how likely that is to occur, because I know that they want to do projects where they, if they commit money, they feel comfortable it's going to happen. That's part of a bigger project, right? It's a good project. It's a wonderful project.
That project's moving along pretty fast, so I have some faith that, it would come to fruition fairly quickly with some help.
So I defer to what people, those are ones that would come in from elsewhere as well, although they come through, the city making the request.
Tom?
Thank you.
3 minutes. Just kidding.
Karen's been there multiple times for that. And it's good to have somebody there to talk about your project. You'll learn things now. You'll learn some of the other things that maybe that's not the appropriate place, and the county's got money through other types of ready grants and so on and so forth that you can do some of these things. So I would have you maybe Steve or whoever talk to Jason at the county and just run this by him, and then he could steer you the right way if we're a little off base. But I like that we're doing it because that hasn't been done.
What's wrong with them just applying for the grant?
Yeah.
Just saying. They're 2 projects that would be good projects that would help the area and the community and bring something to Marshfield.
Yeah. You can't get it if you don't ask.
Yeah, and it's true that, Jason, I've talked to him, he's a great resource, but he's probably going to answer questions. He's probably not going to deter me from applying for anything because I don't think he wants that on him. If it seems to be an eligible activity, he'll likely say, take your best shot. So what do we want to forward from this body?
Somebody want to put a motion forward? Can I put a motion forward to move forward with these 2 projects? To ask for the money for them?
Well, I'm just going to let Mary Jo repeat it because it was new to me. Say it the way you said it.
Can I put a motion forward to move forward with applying for these 2 grants for these 2 entities, Mill Creek Youth Foundation and Marshfield Youth Hockey and Northridge Church?
Yeah, I without knowing the eligibility, any concerns that come from the fact that these are properties that the city doesn't own at this point, but I think that they're viable projects. I mean, we don't necessarily own small businesses, and we're talking about a small business loan program, so I don't know why you can't put that forward.
I put that motion forward then.
I'll second.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Andrew?
Nay,
Who voted nay? Sorry, I didn't see. I was looking down here at him.
that's okay.
Thank you, Ken.
Nay.
Okay. Andrew, what did you say?
Aye.
We need you the little hand emoji. All right, thank you. Motion passed. So then we'll get that grant application to Steve and.
Okay, yeah,
proceed
can
with
you work with me then and give me some of that information to work with?
Absolutely.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, number 14. So we're gonna go to 12 to 14 now. Follow along. Project updates, if any.
Yeah, just a few things. You've probably seen the information that Five Below expects to open in the Marshfield Mall on July 7th. I do know that there's a couple of issues still being worked through. I believe they involve our inspection staff and a couple of things in terms of final approvals, but it appears it will be soon after that if it doesn't occur, hopefully, at that time. Also, the work continues on the spaces at Hobby Lobby and Ross for Less are expecting to open in hopefully before the end of 2023. Daniel's edition, I think Natalie handed out some updated data, at least as current as we have it right now, on the number of lots sold, the number of lots available. There's a map there that shows you what's left. Talking with the companies that have purchased lots but have not purchased yet, I've reached out to them. I don't have anything specific to report yet, but I will the next time we meet in terms of their intentions, whether they're moving forward or looking to surrender those properties back and have the city repurchase them. Weinbrenner Shoes, Josh did a great job of putting together some questions that will help us in determining, the level of city involvement in the project, and also what grants they might be appropriate for them to look at applying for with federal and state agencies. And Jeff Burns, the president who we met with at the last meeting, he did respond on Monday. I've shared the responses with Josh. He did cover the information pretty well. So we're going to try and set up a meeting with some Synergy and other agencies, WEDAC, whatever, to look at what we may be able to do with them, what they might be eligible for at those levels for possible grants to go into the mix. Now, just a reminder that we do not have a TIF district at the moment. For this, we are intending to create a new TIF district in early 2024, hopefully, if we can close the existing TIF District 5. But that's a piece of the puzzle to keep in mind, too, as we look at putting together a package. If you recall, they said they were looking at building perhaps in 2025. I put down project in TIF District 12 because I don't say the name out loud yet. Those folks are still looking to remain confidential, but the company looking to come here and locate on about 9 acres in our industrial park. They do pallet and lumber distribution. That still looks promising. We're working through the development agreement. I sent a development agreement for them to review and their attorney earlier this week, and they're looking at it. Hopefully they'll concur with it, or any changes will be minor. We can get them moving forward. They're excited to build here in the city of Marshfield. West 2nd Street plan, there's a meeting that I've scheduled for next Wednesday, the 14th. We're gonna have some CDA representatives here. We're gonna have Van de Waal representatives, Van de Waal staff on Zoom, and I'll be there, Josh will be there, a couple of other folks. The intent of this meeting is really to get a sense of the CDA's readiness to be part of this. I've talked with Van de Waal about this. They're excited to be our consultant for this project. And get development going in West 2nd Street here in the coming months and years. But they respect the fact that the CDA has called out multiple times in their scope of services. And the CDA, I think we've said before, is a great organization, but their focus has been housing for quite a while, primarily Cedar Rail and Parkview. So we're trying to assess, and they're going to assess, I think, for themselves on the 14th when they talk with Van de Waal, Josh and me and others, whether or not they are truly ready to jump in the waters and be an important part of a fairly large project that has not been their norm. Hopefully that will go well, and we want to continue. 2020 budget requests, 2024 budget requests. I did not get the information out to be considered at today's meeting, so I have talked to Kaylee and Karen and Denise Sonneman from Mackey, I believe, and Nikki knows this as well. We are going to ask for, I'll send an email out tomorrow or Monday to them saying that we need to get their requests here soon. They'll be considered presentations at your July meeting, and decisions made in early August by this body as far as what you want to fund for 2024. And then finally, I didn't talk to you before the meeting, Karen or Josh, is there anything new to report in terms of the update on the certified sites application process?
So there's a number of components that were involved in the certified site process. We do have the soil borings report, the phase one, the concepts for the layout. We have to have two concepts for the layout, including rail access to that site. Those are with our designer right now. Once those are done, we will be reviewing those with the Public Works Director and via rail, making sure that everything works. And then we will be planning to submit that information to site selection group, and then we'll move forward. We're still waiting on some environmental question. There's some DNR process that our team feels that it's completed, but they had some question if it meets the federal requirements. So otherwise, things are moving right along.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
So that's what I have. I take questions on any of those items.
Tom, you have Paul, go ahead. Tom gets the mic all the time, so.
Okay, just one back on Daniels. On the list, it shows that 5 permits have been granted. Does that mean that those lots are paid for in full?
Yeah, actually, I believe 13 lots are paid for in full, but those 5 certainly are.
Okay.
That's all you got?
That's all I needed.
The West 2nd Street plan, I was disappointed. I expressed my disappointment last meeting about the city garage, you know. Could we don't have to hire a firm, but somebody could give us a ballpark what that land is worth there. You know, when you talk about the West 2nd Street project, you know, we know it's going to cost a fair amount to go with the county on a new garage and so on and so forth. But I've never recently heard the amount that land's worth. We were told years ago that's a prime area. So if we could, somebody give us a ballpark on that.
Just to make sure I understand your question. So you're saying if we were to leave that site and it was to be available for development by somebody else, what is it worth? Or no?
Where you mentioned last time that that was sort of on hold, that part of it, moving the garage. Well, as we do the 2nd Street, if I don't know what it's worth, but we were told years ago it was worth a lot of money. We don't know that. So we could include that on the 2nd Street project, you know, I just want to know that number.
Right. In other words, and again, I'm not trying to be like I don't get you, but if in fact we were to make that part of a development project, what could we get potentially redeveloping that site that would offset the cost of building somewhere else?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And the other thing, maybe you know this, Steve, everybody's hitting me up. What's going on with Jimmy John's? Now, I know it was a power issue, and I did see him running big. Maybe that's not Nick, that's not you guys.
They're waiting for a transformer.
So actually, it came on Friday. They started working, they just got electricity on Friday.
Okay.
And so we anticipate hopefully in 2 weeks.
Okay, good. I can
But
put
that is
to
a
rest.
manufacturer situation, not a city issue.
Right,
There's been no
right.
issue with the cities or the
All right.
city or Petco. There's been no issue anywhere.
No.
So
All right,
it's
thank
just
you.
waiting for a piece of
With the amount of
electrical
excitement there is for that business, I don't think you're going to get in anytime soon when they open. You'll probably be standing out on the street for a while. There's a lot of positive buzz over that business coming to town, so we're excited too.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
15, economic development activity updates. Any updates? You got 2 minutes. Just kidding.
Really? Okay. I'll talk fast. I always do. Sorry I missed the last 2 meetings. We had some other things going on at the office and I had to be there. So anyway, as Josh was talking about our certified site program, I just wanted to mention that WEDAC, Wisconsin Economic Development Corp, is going to be having a meeting the end of June, and they're going to bring all the Synergy municipalities together, which is kind of cool to get us all together and talk about what's happening in each of our regions. And they want me to speak, and if Josh is available, I'll drag him along, about how the certified site project went for us because we were a pilot. We were chosen, we were one of 3 communities chosen to do that. So they want to know how the process went, how the city reacted to it, and the benefit we think we'll see beyond. So more information to come on that. May 23rd, we participated in an employer roundtable lunch that was held here in Marshfield, and we invited a lot of our larger employers specifically to get their input on what they're seeing out there. You know, what are their barriers to growth and other things like that. But the main focus of it was on childcare. We had 8 employers that participated. They were treated to lunch, and it really went very well. As a matter of fact, 3 of the employers started talking on their own how maybe they should work together on doing some childcare. You know, could they? One company, they're talking about how they buy slots right now, about 10 slots to offset the cost to 10 of their employers. And then the others said, well, we should get together and talk about how we could come together and do something like that. So I think it was a good first step. And I'm also part of the Wood County Child Care Task Force. And if you've heard much about that, Tom, you probably are familiar with it, but this group is looking at how can we have better accessibility, affordability, all of that of childcare, because that rolls into the whole workforce thing. And we all know that still continues to be one of the main issues out there. So they have made requests of Wood County and ARPA, of the Legacy Foundation, they're looking for grants. We're part of it because we're on the north side and it is a county thing. So I'm trying to keep us focused on our end. They were just awarded a Dream Up grant, part of the First National Bank, and they're going to work with us to develop a strategic plan. They've done this with other communities. Portage County is ending theirs. I think they started last year, but once we complete the strategic plan, we'll be awarded $75,000 to actually do the plan. So, and then any participating providers will receive $5,000. So it's a grant, and it's not going to be the answer to everything, but it's something. Surge, if you haven't heard of Surge, I think Denise mentioned it last month too, but that's a program similar to Hatch, where we're looking for entrepreneurs to come forward and talk about their plans, moving forward, things they want to expand, and we're partnering on this. This is not something we're doing ourselves. As a matter of fact, it's spearheaded by the Small Business Development Center in Point and Create Portage County. They wanted to make it our whole Synergy region. So right now there are 10 participants and they're looking for 2 more. So my understanding is 1 from Marathon County, most are from Portage, but a lot of them are associated or affiliated with the university. So you're going to have a little bit more participation from there. Lastly, the developer tours are coming. You've heard about those already too, but June 27th and 28th, really, really excited about that. There will be 10 developers coming to Marshfield on the 27th and then on the 28th in Wisconsin Rapids. We're going to take them around town and highlight everything we can. The main 2 things we're highlighting is the 2nd Street corridor and the 124 acres that we're looking to certify. But we're going to take them to some downtown businesses, thanks to Kaylee. Maybe look at Penny Court, certainly Wenzel Family Plaza. We're going to take them to the clubhouse, to the Hop and Grape. We're going to just really keep them busy all day and showcase Marshfield. There will be other people invited and are invited, like the mayor and Steve, some of our realtors that deal with commercial and housing. We really want to give them a good impression in the community so they will take that back and bring other people to our community. So we're really excited about that. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? All right. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate
Longer
it.
than 2 minutes. Thank you.
You're good. It was good information. So, number 16, request to change board meeting times.
You got another one.
Oh, you guys are a duo? Just kidding. I'm fine. You're good.
I don't have to talk. I'm just giving an update. So Nikki Anderson, obviously with the Parks Rec Department, we are off and running starting last week. Wenzel Family Plaza opened on Thursday with the fountain. We had a great kickoff with WIFC. A lot of people came in. A lot of great giveaways. It's a great partnership we have with WIFC. They love to come here and we love to have them. Dairy Fest was a huge success. With Columbia, if you drove past Columbia or Wenzel on Friday night or Saturday, it was packed. The weather was great. So the kickoff couldn't have been better, honestly. So Chamber did a really good job on their portion, and I love to see people in the plaza. So things are running. Van de Hey opened on Tuesday. We have been busy with passes. I think that we had 120 requests just over Monday night to Tuesday morning. So the pool's doing great. Everything is going as planned. Wildwood Zoo will start their programming next week. So we had D1 baseball happening here at Hackman Field. So we will have a fire hose until the end of summer. So all is good, and our parks are full. So any questions?
I have one question for you, actually.
Sure.
The pool, it used to open like Memorial Day weekend, and obviously it was hot and beautiful. Can you explain just why it didn't open? Because I think there was some missed opportunity there.
So we, in other communities, like Rapids open the same day we did, is school. We wait until the school is out, because if we didn't, then our attendance would be down and we'd have complaints. The guy had complaints for opening the fountain on Thursday when Marshfield schools closed on Friday. So I think it really is about opening it when our school districts are fully closed.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. All right, moving on. Request to change board meeting times, number 16. So the last meeting, I had brought up about changing the time to morning, and thank you for sending out that survey. There was an anonymous survey that was sent out. I looked at the results. It looks like a little over 71% of us agreed to switch it to the morning. And then there was one that said anytime. So if you add those two together, it's a little bit, about 85% that said, hey, we'll do morning. I guess I'd like to put a motion on the table that we move it to the morning, and then we can have a discussion on what time in the morning afterwards. Lyle, second? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Good. Okay. Now the discussion on the time. So there was a couple different times thrown out there: 7:30, 8, 8:30, 9. I'm good with whatever in the morning. It could be 6 o'clock, but I think that's a little early for some people. So 7:38.
7:30.
7:30. 7:30.
Fine.
7:30. Oh, Andrew. Hey, there's your emoji hand.
Yeah, just one comment on the 7:30 in the morning. 7:30 is 8:30 Eastern, and that's a docket call for me. I usually am free, but I could potentially all of a sudden be committed to going to court in short notice. So just wanted to point that out, that I might be absent potentially due to that in short notice. So, where a week earlier I'm totally fine, and then, the day before it's like, okay, you're going to court. So just wanted to point that out, just because the attendance policy is below 75%, which means that if you miss more than 2 meetings over a 6-month period, you drop below that 75% mark. So just wanted to point that out, that's all.
Okay. We'll be flexible with you. We understand. Thanks for telling us. Yeah, Ken.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. I guess we should also ask our business partners how 7:30 is for you. Do you have conflicts? You're okay? Karen? I'm not a morning person either, but
We'll bring coffee for you guys.
I just.
All right, coffee and donuts. Josh, you have to bring coffee and donuts. You got that? All right. So do we want to take a vote on 7:30 or? Okay. Go ahead and go around.
Mary.
Yes,
Am I on
7:30.
there? Okay. So Tom Bucky,
Yes.
Ken Bargander,
No.
Paul Kapla,
Yes.
Lyle Lang,
Yes.
and Russ Stauber.
Yes.
And Andrew Reigel.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you. I know, his emoji hand. All right, 17, suggested items for upcoming agenda. Any suggested?
Well, it seems like we need to put the facade program on the list.
Yes.
Yes, I think that's a good one. Yep.
Can I take that to mean both potentially, depending upon the date we pick, the grant, revisiting the grant we just tabled, but also broadly speaking is what you're saying, what we take in.
Yeah, I think it's both, and I think there may be two separate items, and, you know, we need to talk about the grant request, but then we also need to talk about moving forward. We need to revise the program.
I agree.
And you'll also have, obviously, the partner presentations for 2024 budget requests on that docket as well.
The hockey group, an update on their building in the sports complex, where they're at with stuff? Is there going to be applying for that?
There's an ongoing conversation about, building a sports complex, and they're interested in property in the city's business park, I guess I can say at this point. I'm not really at the heart of it. There was a meeting recently where they talked about some ideas about how to partner with the city. They would be a nonprofit entity, so there's a question about could they make some type of payment in lieu of taxes. But other than that, I don't know there's much more I can say at this point, because really it's we're trying to help them in terms of what might be possible, but they're also doing a lot of legwork on their end.
Do you guys want them here to update us on where they're at with things and what we can do to help with economic development?
Wouldn't hurt at some point in time.
Okay.
We can ask.
Good with that
Want me to
on
ask
the
them?
agenda? Yeah, I think that's important. Anything else?
And Andrew has a question.
Yeah, just to clarify here, Mr. Barg, when we're talking about the facade program, we obviously want if there's a second application, we want both applicants to come in and present. Is that correct?
Yeah, that would be my intent. I think, I believe that will be the 60-day mark. So I would agree. Whatever we have at that point, we bring forward, and you would consider that at the same time as the tabled one. It's a little awkward, I guess, in a sense, to do what is being asked by Paul, and that is to, at the same meeting, I guess it would be a subsequent item on the agenda, later in the agenda, to talk about possible future changes to the program that the board would like to see. But we can do that as well. But definitely whatever applicants we have.
Steve?
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Steve?
Thank you.
Also, if we need to separate those into separate meetings. In other words, let's look at the grants first for this year, because it should be under this year's rules.
Right.
And then the next month, we go over and look at how we want to change
Yeah,
it.
that's fine.
I agree.
I think that might be appropriate, and the reason I think that might be appropriate is it gives us a little bit of separation of a few weeks to let the, the awards that we make or that we don't make settle, and then, okay, what have we learned as a group? What concerns are that we want to have folded into the mix? I think a month later, like August, would probably be a good idea.
I agree. Yep. Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Next meeting date and time, July 6th. Where has the year gone? Right, Lyle? July 6th. Like, not good? That's not a good day?
I put the 6th to the 13th because I thought the 6th, being on the week of the 4th of July might not be real good for people, making the 13th more palatable. I don't know.
You want to go to the 13th for everybody? Yes, Andrew.
I was just going to point out that the 13th puts us past the 60-day mark. Our last meeting was on May 11th.
Yeah, thank you very much. You're very astute. I was kind of thinking the same thing myself, hoping it would go that way so that we could talk about the tabled one. Really good point.
Okay.
Move to adjourn.
Move to
So I guess I'd make a
adjourn.
motion. Well, I was going to make a motion for the meeting to begin on the 13th if I need a motion for that. And if not, I would make a motion to adjourn.
Sounds good.
So the 13th at 7:30 a.m.?
Yes.
Okay.
With coffee and donuts from Josh.
Put that,
Tom.
put that in the minutes, right?
Yes. Thank you, everybody.
No.
Whew.